Hello, math students. One of my YouTube subscribers emailed me this tricky little question here. So let's take a look. It says, study the grid, then use the drag and drop options to place each ordered pair or equation in the appropriate box. Now, I don't really have drag and drop options here, but take a look at what I have going on here. You can see that I have these three intersecting lines, and where they intersect, it forms a triangle here. Okay, and then I see the question says, what is the equation of each line that makes up a side of the triangle? Now, they give me a few equations here, and I don't know why it keeps getting covered up. So I'm just going to write them out. I have y equals half x plus 2. I have y equals 3 half x plus 2. Oh, no, minus 2. And y equals negative 1 half x minus 2. Now, if you don't have any backgrounds with graphing lines at all, this is going to be a challenging for you to follow. But I will just let you know that we have something called the slope-intercept form of a line, and it's actually on your GED formula sheet. Almost all the way towards the bottom, you're going to see that there's this slope-intercept equation of a line. Now, it throws students sometimes, because when they look at this formula, it looks like a lot of gobbledygook to them because it has too many letters in it. But basically, this is just the one general way to write any line. You'll see the letter Y alone, and then you'll see some number of X's, and you'll see a number that's all by itself. So the M and the B would usually be some kind of a number. So y equals mx plus b is like a general form for any line, but as soon as you fill in an m and a b with a number, then you have the equation of a specific line, And I always joke when I teach this formula that mathematicians are not very creative at all, because we are so not creative that we named this equation after exactly what it tells us. So we call it the slope-intercept form of the line because when we look at this equation where the y is by itself, we can see both the slope. The m is the slope and the y-intercept. So m stands for slope. And b stands for the y-intercept. Now you might be saying, why does m stand for slope? I used to tell my students that m stood for slope because a slope is a movement, but I was actually wrong. As it turns out, it stands for monter, the French word which means to climb, because your slope is how fast your line is climbing. Okay, and then the y-intercept, well, we know what the word intercept means. It means to cross. So y-intercept is where your line crosses the y-axis. And if you have trouble remembering the formula, it is on your GED formula sheet, but if you're doing math for any other reason, you might have to memorize this. I always joke, why am I always alone? Your y has to be alone. Even my X is married. Do you see Mrs. X? She's such a slope with a baby. And that's how I remember that formula. Why am I always alone? Even my X is married, Mrs. X, with a baby. Okay, so basically, when I look at this line right here, I can see two things. Let me get out a different color pen. The number that's hanging out with X, whatever that number is, just the number, is going to be the slope. Some teachers even teach slope. Remember, slope is a measure of steepness. It's how fast your line is rising. And so the way you measure it is that you make a ratio of rise over run. So what I'm saying is that this line is sloping. It's going 1 up for every 2 it goes over. 1 up for every 2 it goes over. That's what a slope of 1/2 means. Okay. Now there's another piece of information here, the positive 2. The positive 2 is my y-intercept. That means this line crosses at positive 2. Let's go take a look at our graph. So we can see only one of the line crosses at positive 2. And let's confirm that it has a slope of 1/2. Does it go up 1 for every 2 it goes over? Yes, it sure does. Up 1, 2 over. You can see, and that's no matter where I am on the line, I could go up 1, 2 over and still be on the line. Up 1, 2 over. And so it does have a slope of 1/2, and it does cross. It has a Y-intercept of positive 2. And so that line right there, that PO line, is the first one we were talking about. And so y equals 1/2 x plus 2 is, oh, it's not PO, sorry, it's PQ. So this is y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next two both say -2, and in fact, we can see that both of these lines have a y-intercept. They both cross the y at -2, so that's not a very helpful thing. So what we're going to have to do is compare the slopes. And I have to say this one's really easy. If you watch my beginning slope video, you know that lines that have a negative slope appear to move down. And lines with a positive slope appear to move up, and that's a positive fraction right there. Even if you hate fractions, you can recognize that it's positive, so it's going to move up. And you read a graph from left to right. That's what I'm saying when I say go up or down. So if I'm looking for a line with a positive 3/2 slope, it's going to be going up. I bet you it's this one. Let's just make sure. Does it go up 3 for every 2 it goes over? Indeed. Up 3 for every 2 it goes over. Remember that rise over run. And so, yes, we do see that that line has a y-intercept of -2, and it has a slope. So our b is -2. And our slope is positive 3/2. Our slope is 3/2. Okay, wonderful. So I guess we've got it narrowed down. This other one must be the -1/2 x minus 2. And indeed, you can see that this line here. Oh my gosh, this is getting super messy. This line. Oh, come on, Kate. Where's your color? I tried to change colors and I was unsuccessful. Okay, this line here crosses at -2. It crosses the y-axis. That's that y-axis runs up and down here. So it crosses at -2, so its y-intercept is -2. And it goes down 1 for every 2 it goes over. Take a look. Down 1, 2 over. Down 1, 2 over. Down 1, 2 over. So, yeah, it's got a slope of -1/2. Okay, great. So that was, what was that? PR. So if PR is y equals -1/2 x minus 2, then QR is the only one we didn't do. QR, yep, QR. So QR was our y equals 3/2 minus 2. Oh, x. 3/2 x minus 2. Awesome. Okay, so cool. This was a tricky little problem, but it totally relied on you knowing the slope-intercept form of a line. And again, if you don't have any familiarity with that, that would be something to study. It's definitely going to come up on your GED. All right, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments.